Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. In recent days, we've learned that not one, not two, but three top DOJ officials are quitting, leaving the Department of Justice. I think it's fair to ask, why at this moment in time are three of the top DOJ officials leaving? Could it be that they're trying to put some distance between themselves and Donald Trump before Donald Trump is shown the door by the American voters in November? Could it be that they're hoping to avoid forever being branded with a scarlet T? Let's talk about who these three men are and what they've done while they were at the Department of Justice. But I would ask you to keep one thing in mind. These three men were put in place by Donald Trump and Bill Barr, and they are not representative of the more than 110,000 hardworking, honest, ethical Department of Justice employees who are doing the work on behalf of we the people every day. First, let me talk about the Chief of the Criminal Division, Ben Benzkowski. I apologize if I mispronounce his name. The Chief of the Criminal Division is a hugely consequential job because the Department of Justice and its 94 field offices, United States Attorney's offices in various jurisdictions, bring a lot of criminal prosecutions every year. And the Chief of the Criminal Division at the Department of Justice technically oversees all of it, is responsible for all of it. So it really is an enormous job. Some of what Mr. Benzkowski has done is presided over the Criminal Division while the Department of Justice did favors, though, for some of the president's criminal associates like Roger Stone and Mike Flynn. He's leaving. Another top DOJ official that's leaving is Noel Francisco. He is the Solicitor General. He is in charge of the office that is responsible for all litigation before the United States Supreme Court. Again, a hugely consequential position. All I'm going to say about Noel Francisco is what CNN reported out a few days ago when we learned he would be quitting government as well. Here's what CNN said. Quote, Noel Francisco has led the Solicitor General's office since September 2017 and has been a forceful advocate for President Donald Trump. Close quote. You know, folks, that's not the way any of this is supposed to work. The Solicitor General and the Chief of the Criminal Division are not supposed to be forceful advocates for Donald Trump or his criminal associates. They're supposed to be forceful advocates for the rule of law and for we the people. That's who they're supposed to represent. But these men choose to represent the interests of, frankly, a criminal president. Noel Francisco is leaving as well. That brings me to the third top DOJ official, Joseph Hunt. He's the Chief of the Civil Division. Now, the Civil Division is also an enormously consequential part of the Department of Justice because just as the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's offices handle a lot of criminal prosecutions, they also handle a whole lot of civil litigation. So when the government is sued, when somebody sues the federal government, it is the DOJ Civil Division that will defend those suits. Or when the Department of Justice, the federal government, brings suit against an individual or a business or a corporation to enforce the laws or the rules, that's done by the Civil Division of the Department of Justice. Huge job. What is some of what distinguishes Joseph Hunt's tenure as the Chief of the Civil Division? Well, first of all, he failed to support and defend the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Instead, he argued against it. He tried to tank it. He fought against the enforceability of congressional subpoenas, subpoenas that were being sought to allow Congress to provide its important oversight function of the executive branch, or its even more consequential, more important, impeachment function over a criminal president. Yeah, Joseph Hunt fought against the enforceability of those subpoenas. Of course, he fought in favor of something. He fought in favor of putting a citizenship question on the U.S. Census. You think that was to help our immigrant friends? Well, the Supreme Court slapped him down and told him he couldn't. The administration couldn't put a citizenship question on the census. Well, he also fought in favor of President Donald Trump being able to profit a little bit off the presidency, because he argued that President Trump's conduct in taking money while in office from foreign leaders and foreign countries didn't violate that little prohibition in the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause. Yeah, he was a fierce advocate for the president profiting off the presidency. Now, most recently, yesterday, what has his civil division done? It's filed suit on behalf of Donald Trump to keep John Bolton's book from being published. Folks, do we really think that has anything to do with Donald Trump or Joseph Hunt being concerned that there were going to be national security secrets that we would learn as a result of John Bolton's book being published? No. It's because there's stuff in there that's going to make Donald Trump look like the crook that he is. And I'm not defending John Bolton. I mean, I think he showed his unpatriotic colors when he, ran from the possibility of testifying at Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial, and instead apparently said to himself, yeah, I'm going to hold on to this information and profit off it a little bit later on when I can publish a book. Still, Joseph Hunt is taking up the president's mantle again by suing John Bolton to try to shut down his book. That's who Joseph Hunt is, and we also learned that he will be leaving his position. But as I say, folks, please don't judge the Department of Justice employees by the Bill Barrs and the Brian Benskowskis and the Noel Franciscos and the Joseph Hunts of the world. In fact, here's what I'd like to leave you with. When it was disclosed that Joseph Hunt would be leaving the Department of Justice as head of the Civil Division, here is what the New York Times reported out in recent days. It was kind of buried in the middle of an article about Joseph Hunt leaving. The New York Times said that under Hunt's leadership, quote, so many lawyers in the division left or asked to be temporarily reassigned to other parts of the department that at one point it had to freeze reassignment requests, closed quote. Think about that. When Joseph Hunt took over as chief of the Civil Division, started supervising the career, honest, ethical public servants of the Department of Justice, so many of them either left in droves or tried to be reassigned to other parts of the Department of Justice rather than work for Joseph Hunt. So please don't judge the hardworking men and women of the Department of Justice by the way Bill Barr operates or the way Brian Benskowski does favors for the president, though, or the way Noel Francisco represents the president's interests instead of the interests of we the people, or the way Joseph Hunt took up those causes that we just discussed. The good news, folks, is I suspect these people are leaving because they know that Donald Trump is about to be shown the door by the American voters, and they're trying to get out and they're trying to avoid being branded with that scarlet T. But we'll remember. We'll remember what they did, and we'll remember who they did it for. They did it for Donald Trump, and they did it to the American people. But folks, an election is coming, and justice is coming, and a law-abiding president and a law-enforcing attorney general, and hopefully a chief of the criminal division and a solicitor general and a chief of the civil division will be in place again come January, and the hard work of the American people will resume. As always, folks, please stay safe, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.